I'm a career diplomat. I've been in the Foreign Service for 25 years. I'm married. I have two grown-up kids, originally from Wilmington, Delaware, and now based in the Washington, D.C. area. So I'll turn over to Aaron.
Great. Thanks very much. Bob, it's great to be with you and great to be with all of your viewers. My name's Aaron Snipe. I, too, am a career diplomat with the State Department. This is my second tour in Iraq. As you said, I was a public diplomacy officer on a provincial reconstruction team serving alongside our men and women in uniform from 2008 to 2009. And when I returned to the United States, I felt like I wanted to serve again, and I studied more Arabic and then came back to Iraq, this time to work in the embassy. So it's been an amazing journey thus far. I'm just back after a year of not being here, but really looking forward to rejoining a lot of the great activities that we're doing.
Let's go back a little bit. Talk about what it was like when you got here. Talk about the transition, because it's something American people are really not hearing much about, unfortunately, but they are now. And talk about progress.
I've been here, I got here at the end of May, and it's been really a fascinating experience for me. Although I've been with the State Department for a number of years and actually worked with the military, I think here in Iraq and in the embassy, we work in a really very intimate way with our military partners. And it's something I think that both sides are really gaining from. I know that that in terms of transition, there's so many things that we're doing together that the sort of the glide path to having a stronger civilian presence and fewer military on the ground, something that we've been working really very closely with our military partners to make sure that it doesn't that there aren't any cracks that show up as we're moving that way. Let me give an example. As the director of the Office of Provincial Affairs, I'm responsible right now for 16 PRTs around the country. They're in 16 different provinces, and one of them is actually covering 3 provinces in the north. So we have representatives in every one of the provinces around the country, and I've had an opportunity to get out to almost all of them now. And in some places you'll see things where the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for example, has an agricultural advisor. You have a USAID development advisor. You have a military, maybe a civilian action officer, or even reservists who come with specialized skills. And they all work together in trying to make these projects move forward. In one village that I was in recently, they put in peach orchards, and they brought in peach trees. The military were working with developing drip irrigation systems that could be used, and the agricultural people were teaching the farmers how to do grafting. So that you had this whole of government kind of approach to the efforts we're making to develop employment opportunities, to create a more stable environment in the provincial areas, but also looking at how all of the different parts of the U.S. government, civilian and military, can work together to really make these much more productive and dynamic projects that we're working on. So let me give it to Aaron.
Sure. Alcy talked a lot about progress, and I think it's sometimes difficult because from the United States we see a lot of news of violence or car bombs or things that are still happening in Iraq, but a lot of the progress is really taking place in smaller places. The projects that Alcy just spoke about, I worked on a number of those projects out in the provinces with our military colleagues, and when I think back to my time serving on a provincial reconstruction team, and I think about how we had military veterinarians working with Iraqi veterinarians to inoculate sheep, which provided wool but also food for lots of rural populations. And these stories are tough to package in a way that I think most Americans think about as great progress, but for a lot of the rural communities and farming communities that are out there, this is real progress. And the Saddam Hussein regime really ignored such wide swaths of the population of Iraq, and where the civilian and military representatives of the United States have really played a great role is engaging all of these populations. And so there's great progress taking place, and there's much more to be done. And I think one of the things that a lot of our military folks should recognize is that as we transition from a relationship which has been focused primarily on security to a relationship that is on mutual interest, shared values, one that is civilian-led. Folks can be proud of all of the accomplishments that their military colleagues have made, and rest assured that the civilians who are taking the lead will carry on these projects and carry on the great work that they've done so far.
Could you both talk more specific about projects, maybe schools, because I know there's been a lot of school construction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think early on, a lot of the efforts that were undertaken were efforts for physical things, bricks and mortar, repairing clinics, building schools, building toilets and restrooms in schools so that you could keep young people in school longer during the day, repairing canals, which are really essential for agriculture, putting in some experimental and demonstration farms with drip irrigation, because water is a real issue here and you really can't grow anything without solid irrigation. But I think as we've looked at moving the transition forward, what we're really looking at is not just providing fish, but the fishing pole. How do we help people gain the capacity they need? And one of the things is that in looking at a more stable environment, and that's one of the things we really have to thank our brothers and sisters in uniform for, is that we do have a more stable environment. And we lose sight of the fact that even though there still is a lot of publicity on the violent incidents that happen, it's within a context of really a zone of peace, I think. As I go around, I see that there are huge swaths of the country that are really moving forward in terms of having the provincial councils. They've had elections. They've had elections at the provincial level and at the national level. And they formed elected councils that are making decisions about how to spend their own money, so that the projects that we're doing are really seed projects to help inspire, to give a vision, to help link people into things that are possibilities for them. Helping people understand how to use the internet, for example, so that they don't have to just be dependent on something coming to them, but they can reach out and find these resources for themselves. And so a lot of what we've been doing recently in the transition is moving from bricks and mortar type projects into projects that are really, helping to build the capacity. And I think that's one of the things that Aaron was talking about. They're stories that are a little hard to put pictures on. It's easier to show a school than it is to show a city council meeting that's actually working on figuring out which bridge is going to be a better one to put your resources into so that people can get to the market. So and it's been a very interesting process to see how many different areas we're working in.